Okay, so have you ever just stopped and really thought about it? Like, is today actually the first day of spring?
Yeah,
I mean, you might look outside and see a tiny bit of green or, maybe still just a lot of gray.
right.
But whether you realize it or not, that seemingly basic question can take us on a pretty amazing journey. I mean, we're talking astronomy, age-old traditions, and even the way we plan our lives. It's really fascinating.
Absolutely. That kind of question, the ones that seem so simple on the surface, those are the ones we love to really dig into. And today we're going deep on the arrival of spring, specifically spring 2025. And the key to unlocking this whole thing is understanding this event called the vernal equinox.
Exactly. We've got this whole stack of articles and news reports, and they're all about the first day of spring in 2025. And like you said, this thing called the vernal equinox.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is figure out what it all really means. We're going to get into the science behind it, check out the cultural celebrations that are tied to it, and even talk about how this date has practical significance in our lives.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. For everyone in the Northern Hemisphere, the official kickoff of spring in 2025 is Thursday, March 20th. And it occurs at a super specific time, 5:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Yeah.
That kind of precision is kind of wild, isn't it?
It really is. It's actually that precision that points us to the astronomical definition of it.
Okay.
So the vernal equinox, it's the precise moment, not even like the whole day, but the exact moment when the sun crosses something called the celestial equator.
The celestial equator.
Yeah, so picture this. Imagine Earth's equator, but like projected out into space.
All right.
Way out there. That's the celestial equator. And the vernal equinox is when the sun, as it appears to move across the sky throughout the year, crosses from the southern half of this imaginary sphere to the northern half. It's like a super specific cosmic crossover point.
I like that. Cosmic handoff. And you mentioned something about there being almost equal amounts of daylight and darkness all over the planet at that moment.
Right.
Why does that happen?
It's actually all about the Earth's position at that particular instant. You see, at the vernal equinox, the Earth's axis, the imaginary line it spins on, it's normally tilted either towards the sun or away from it.
Right.
But at this very moment, it's neutral. It's not leaning in or out. It's perfectly balanced.
Okay.
And because of that, the way the sun's rays hit the Earth, it creates that near-perfect balance of day and night all across the globe.
So that neutral tilt makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But hold on a second. You mentioned that the equinox actually happens at a different time in UTC 9:01 a.m. That's a 4-hour difference, right?
Yeah.
So what's the deal with that?
It all comes down to time zones. Scientists use something called Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC, as a kind of global clock.
Right.
It helps avoid confusion when events happen at different local times around the world. And since Eastern Daylight Time, where we are, is 4 hours behind UTC, the equinox happens at 5:01 a.m. for us. But it's the same instant everywhere on Earth, just experienced at different times depending on where you are.
Gotcha. So it's a global moment happening at different local times. Now, even the word equinox sounds pretty official, like something out of a science textbook.
It actually has a really cool origin. It comes from Latin. It's a combo of two words, equus, which means equal, and nox, meaning night.
Ooh, I always loved Latin.
Me too. Anyway, so even the name itself, equinox, points right to that near equal length of day and night that we see during this event. It's all right there in the name.
I love how descriptive Latin is. It's so clear. So we've been talking about the equinox happening on March 20th in 2025, but I feel like sometimes I've heard it happening on the 21st or even the 19th.
Right.
Am I making that up?
Not at all. You're totally right. The vernal equinox, it's not like permanently glued to March 20th. It usually bounces around a bit, landing on the 19th, 20th, or 21st. And there's a couple of astronomical reasons for that.
Okay, I'm ready for some more cosmic knowledge.
All right, so first off, Earth's orbit around the sun isn't a perfect circle. It's more of an oval shape, what astronomers call an ellipse. Now, this means that Earth's speed changes as it travels along its path. Sometimes it's going a bit faster, sometimes a bit slower. And here's the second thing. Our year, it's not exactly 365 days long. It's more like 365 and a quarter days.
Right.
And that little extra bit, it adds up over time.
So that tiny piece of a day throws off the timing of everything a little bit each year.
Exactly. And that's where leap years come into the picture. By adding an extra day to the calendar every 4 years, well, most of the time, we try to keep our calendar year in sync with the actual astronomical year. But even with leap years, it's not a perfect system.
Right.
And that's why the date of the equinox can shift a little bit within that 3-day window. It kind of highlights how our human-made calendars, even though they're super useful, can't quite perfectly capture the constant dance of the cosmos.
It's like we're constantly trying to catch up with the Earth's journey.
Right.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we're over here celebrating the start of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. But what's going on at the exact same time on the other side of the world? What are they up to?
That's a great question, and it goes back to the Earth's tilt, which is what gives us seasons in the first place. You see, when the Northern Hemisphere experiences the vernal equinox and spring begins, the Southern Hemisphere is experiencing the opposite, the autumnal equinox.
Wow, a total flip.
Yeah, it's the same cosmic event happening worldwide, but with the opposite seasonal effects. While we're welcoming warmer days, they're gearing up for cooler weather. It's like a global seasonal swap.
I love it. Okay, so we've got the science down pretty well, but this just feels like something that would have been so incredibly significant to people throughout history, way back when. Can you tell us a bit about the cultural importance of the spring equinox?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there. The spring equinox, it's been deeply meaningful for tons of cultures across the globe and throughout history. It's a time when nature reawakens, light begins to overpower darkness,
Yeah.
and it's naturally seen as a period of rebirth, renewal, and hope. Ancient civilizations, even without our fancy telescopes and scientific tools, they were very aware of these celestial patterns, and they created rituals and festivals to honor this big transition.
It's amazing to think how they could keep track of those events without any modern technology. So how do they actually celebrate or acknowledge the spring
Uh,
equinox?
The specifics of how they celebrated, they varied quite a bit depending on the culture, but the underlying themes, they were often pretty similar.
Okay.
A lot of the celebrations focused on fertility, the land coming back to life after winter, and the idea of light triumphing over darkness. It makes sense when you think about it. After going through a long, harsh winter, seeing the days get longer and the first signs of new growth, it would have been a huge welcome event. It was a sign of food and survival.
Definitely something to celebrate after a long winter. Now, are there any traditions connected to the spring equinox that are still around today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Some of those ancient rituals may have changed or faded over time, but that core spirit of renewal and celebration,
Right.
it's still alive and well in many modern traditions. For example, one incredibly vibrant celebration is Holi, the Hindu festival of colors.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
While it's not always exactly on the spring equinox because it follows the lunar calendar, it's really strongly associated with the arrival of spring.
Okay.
And the way they celebrate, it's just this joyful throwing of colorful powders and water. It's not just about the new season's energy, it's also about good winning over evil and shedding the old to embrace the new. It's a lot like spring itself, all about renewal.
Holi sounds absolutely incredible. I love that it's like this huge explosion of color and energy.
Yeah.
What other modern traditions are connected to the equinox?
Well, over in Mexico, there's this really interesting tradition that revolves around the ancient city of Teotihuacan and its famous Pyramid of the Sun. During the spring equinox, tons of people go to the pyramid, many dressed in white, to soak up what they believe is extra strong solar energy. It's a way for them to connect with their pre-Hispanic heritage and to welcome spring.
So cool.
And then there's Nowruz, which is the Persian New Year. It's a huge deal in a lot of countries across the Middle East, Central Asia, and even beyond, and it falls right on the spring equinox.
Okay.
Nowruz is packed with all kinds of rituals and customs, all about renewal, hope, and fresh starts.
That sounds really beautiful.
It's kind of like a cultural reset button that lines up perfectly with nature's own cycle of rebirth.
It really does. Wow, from these awesome festivals to ancient pyramids and even New Year celebrations, it's clear that this moment still means a lot to so many cultures around the world. It's really fascinating. But you know what? We've been talking about the astronomical start of spring, but I swear I've also heard people say spring starts on March 1st.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
That's actually a really important distinction. The difference between what we call meteorological spring and astronomical spring. You see, meteorologists, the folks who study weather patterns, they have their own way of defining seasons. For their work, especially when they're comparing climate data year after year, it makes sense for them to define spring as the 3 months from March 1st to May 31st.
Oh,
It keeps things nice and consistent for them so they can track trends and do their analysis. So their definition of spring is based on the typical yearly temperature cycles, not on Earth's exact position in relation to the sun at the equinox.
so it's more of a calendar thing, a way to keep things organized for records and analysis.
Exactly. But when we talk about astronomical spring, like we've been doing, that's totally determined by the vernal equinox.
Right.
So when you hear someone talking about the first day of spring, it's really important to know which definition they're using.
That makes total sense. I bet that's where a lot of the confusion comes from.
Probably. They're both valid ways to think about it, but they serve different purposes.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's say the vernal equinox happens and astronomical spring officially begins.
Okay.
What are some of the real tangible changes we might notice?
Well, one of the most obvious things, at least in the northern hemisphere, is that the days start getting longer. Because our part of the planet starts tilting more towards the sun after the equinox, we get more daylight and shorter nights.
Right.
And that keeps going until the summer solstice in June, which is the longest day of the year.
You know, I gotta say, those longer days totally affect how I feel. Like, I have way more energy, and my mood is just better when there's more sunlight.
You're definitely not the only one who feels that way. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
The increase in daylight hours has a big impact on mood and energy for a lot of people.
Okay.
It's tied to our internal clocks, what's called the circadian rhythm, and it can even affect the hormones that control our mood and well-being.
It makes sense. More light, more energy. But what about nature? Does the equinox itself directly cause any specific changes in plants and animals?
It's more like the vernal equinox is this huge signal for nature. It's a sign that conditions are changing, becoming perfect for growth and activity.
Right.
It basically kickstarts a super busy time for the natural world. Plants start popping up from the ground, trees start budding with new leaves and flowers, and animals that have been hibernating all winter or just laying low, they start coming out.
It's like a huge wake-up call for the entire planet.
It really is. It's this massive renewal and revitalization across the whole ecosystem. It's almost like you can sense a change in the energy of nature.
Yeah, totally. You can feel everything coming back to life. And we talked a bit about this earlier, about the psychological effects, that sense of optimism that comes with spring.
Right.
Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Spring is often linked to feelings of optimism, hope, and new energy. Think about it. After those dark, chilly winter months, suddenly you've got longer days, warmer temperatures, and the amazing colors of new growth everywhere. It can have a really positive effect on our mental well-being. It's like the world around us is offering this fresh start, and that can be super uplifting and motivating. It's almost like we all collectively shake off the winter blues.
It's like that feeling of relief when you finally take off a heavy coat you've been wearing all day. Now, beyond that boost in mood and everything bluing, are there any practical effects of the vernal equinox that really affect our lives on a bigger scale?
You bet. One of the most important, both historically and even today, is the impact on agriculture. For farmers, the vernal equinox has always been this crucial sign that it's time to start planting a lot of crops. The changing temperatures, longer daylight hours, and the ground thawing out, those are all essential for seeds to sprout and grow, leading to the harvests that feed us. It's this deep link between what's happening in the sky and what ends up on our plates.
So it's not just a symbolic date. It has real consequences for what we eat.
It's true. Even on a smaller personal level, for people who garden at home, this time of year signals when to start planting their flowers, veggies, and herbs.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I always get the urge to dig in the dirt around this time.
It's natural. And how about outdoor activities and recreation in general?
Right.
The arrival of spring, marked by the equinox, kind of kicks off a whole bunch of outdoor activities. As the weather gets nicer and the days get longer, people are way more likely to go hiking, biking, have picnics, go bird watching, or just hang out outside enjoying the fresh air. It's the start of a more active time of year.
Yeah, it's like everyone comes out of hibernation. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here, from the intricate science of it all to the rich cultural traditions and the real-world effects of the equinox. As we look ahead to spring 2025, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for us?
I think the key thing to remember is that the vernal equinox, happening on March 20th in 2025, it's more than just a date on the calendar. It's a big astronomical event that officially kicks off spring in the Northern Hemisphere. It's that super specific moment of nearly equal day and night, all because of Earth's position as it travels around the sun. And this event, it's loaded with meaning, both astronomically, culturally, and practically. And all of those things are tied to the ideas of renewal, light returning, and the natural world waking up.
So it's not just about the calendar saying it's spring, it's about this huge cosmic, cultural, and biological shift that's happening all around us.
Exactly. It's a reminder that this cycle keeps going, a constant dance between our planet and the sun.
Well, I have to say, this has been a truly eye-opening deep dive into something that most of us probably take for granted. Thanks so much for breaking it all down with me.
Absolutely. It's always fun to explore how different parts of our world are all connected like this.
Now, as we wrap up our exploration, I want you to think about this. Ancient cultures, they didn't have our understanding of Earth's orbit or its tilt, but they still recognized and celebrated this super important moment in Earth's yearly cycle.
Hmm.
So what does that tell us about how connected we are to the rhythms of nature? Like, we instinctively knew this was a turning point, a time of light and renewal, and we gave it meaning. It's definitely something to think about as we enjoy those longer days ahead. Until our next deep dive.